Dahl the Witches, illustrated by Quentin Blank. The Mouse Burglar. My grandmother hustled me back into my own bedroom and out onto the balcony. "Are you ready?" she asked. "I'm going to put you in the song now. I hope you can manage this," I said. "I'm only a little mouse. You'll manage," she said. "Good luck, my darling." She pulled me into the sock and started lowering me over the balcony. I crouched inside the sock and held my breath. Through the stitches, I could see out quite clearly. Miles below me, the children playing on the beach were the size of beetles. The sock started swinging in the breeze. I looked up and saw my grandmother's hand sticking out over the railings of the balcony above. "You're nearly there," she called out. "Here we go! Gently, Dutton, you're down!" I felt a slight bump. "In you go!" my grandmother was shouting. "Hurry, hurry, hurry! Search the room!" I jumped out of the sock and ran into the Grand High Witch's bedroom. There was the same musty smell about the place I had noticed in the ballroom. It was a stench of witches. It reminded me of the smell inside the men's public lavatory at our local railing station. As far as I could see, the room was tidy enough. There was no sign anywhere that it was inhabited by anyone but an ordinary person. But that there wouldn't be, would there? No witch could be stupid enough to leave anything suspicious lying around the hotel for me to see. Suddenly, I saw a frog jumping across a carpet and disappearing under the bed. I jumped myself. "Hurry up!" came my grandmother's voice from somewhere high up in the sound. "Wrap yourself and get out!" I started skittering around and trying to search the room. This wasn't so easy. I couldn't, for example, open any of the drawers. I couldn't open the doors of the set in the middle of the floor, and I had to think. The Grand High Witch wanted to hide something, the top secret. Where would she put it? Certainly not in any ordinary drawer. Not in the wardrobe either. It was so obvious. I jumped up onto the bed to get a better view of the room. "Hey," I thought. "What about under the mattress?" Very carefully, I lowered myself over the edge mattresses. I had to push toward hard to make any headway, but I kept at it. I couldn't see a thing. There's grabbing about under the mattress when I had suddenly bumped against something hard inside the mattress above me. I reached up and felt it with my paw. Could it be a little bottle? It was a little bottle. I could trace the shape of it through a cloth of a mattress. And right alongside with it, I felt another hard lump, and another. The Grand High Witch must slid upon the mattress and put all the bottles inside them and swing it up all again. I began tearing away frantically at the mattress cloth above my head with my teeth. My front teeth was extremely sharp, and it didn't take me long to take a small hole. I climbed into the hole and grabbed the bottle by the neck. I pushed it down through the hole in the mattress and climbed out after it. Walking backwards and dragging the bottle behind me, I managed to reach the edge of the mattress and rolled the bottle of the bed onto the carpet. It bounced, but it didn't break. I jumped down off the bed. I examined the little bottle. It was identical to the one the Grand High Witch who had in the ballroom. There is a label on this one. Formula 86, it said. Delayed action mouse maker. Then it said, "This bottle contains 500 doses. Eureka!" I felt tremendously pleased with myself. 3 frogs came hopping out from under the bed. They crouched on the carpet, staring at me with large black eyes. I stared back at them. Those huge eyes were the saddest things I had ever seen. It suddenly occurred to me that almost certainly upon once a time they had been children, those frogs, for the Grand High Witch had got hold of them. I stood there clutching the bottle and staring at the frogs. "Who are you?" I asked them. At that exact moment, I heard a key turning in the lock of the door, and the door burst open, and the Grand Light Witch swept into the room. The frogs jumped underneath the bed again in one quick hop. I darted after them, still clutching the bottle, and I ran back against the wall and squeezed in behind one of the bedposts. I heard feet walking on the carpet. I clustered together under the middle of the bed. Frogs cannot hide like mice. They cannot run like mice either. All they can do, poor things, is to hop about rather clumsily. Suddenly, the Grand Light Witch's face came into view, peering under the bed. I popped my head back behind the bedpost. "So there you are, my little froggies," I heard her saying. "You can stay where you are until I go to bed tonight. Then I shall throw you out of the window, and the seagulls can have you for supper." Suddenly, very loud and clear, there came a sound of my grandmother's voice through the open balcony door. "Hurry up, my darling," he shouted. "Do hurry up, you better come out quickly." "Who is calling?" snapped the Grand Light Witch. I peeped round the bedpost again and saw her walking the carpet to the balcony door. "Who's this across my carpet to the balcony door? Who's this on my balcony?" she muttered. "Who is it? Who dares to trespass on my balcony?" She went through the door onto the balcony itself. "What is this lightning bolt hanging down here?" I heard her saying. "Oh, hello," my grandmother's voice. "I just threw my knitting over the balcony by mistake, but it's all right. I got the hold of one end of it. I can pull it up by myself. Thank you all the same." I marveled at the coolness of her voice. "Who were you talking to just now?" snapped the Grand Light Witch. "Who were you telling to hurry up and come out quickly?" "I was talking to my little grandson," I heard my grandmother saying. "He's been in the bedroom for hours, and it's time he came out. He sits in there reading books, and he forgets completely where he is. Doing books, and he forgets." "Do you have any children, my dear?" "I did not," shouted the Grand Light Witch, and she came quickly back into the bedroom, slamming the balcony door behind her. I was cooked. My escape rope was closed. I was very terrified of frogs. I was just as terrified as the frogs. I was quite sure that if I was spotted, it would be caught and thrown all over the balcony for the seagulls. There came a knock on the bedroom door. "What is it this time?" shouted the Grand Light Witch. "It's we ancient ones," said a meek voice from behind the door. "It is 6 o'clock, and we have come to collect the bottles and your promises, oh your grandness." I saw her crossing the carpet towards the door. The door was open, and then I saw a whole lot of feet and shoes beginning to enter the room. They were coming in slowly and hesitantly, as though the owners of the shoes were frightened of entering. Come in," snapped the Grand Light Witch. "Not stand there dithering in the corridor. I don't have all night." I saw my chance. I jumped out from behind the bedpost and ran like lightning towards the open door. I jumped over several pairs of shoes on the way, and 3 seconds I was out in the corridor, so clutching the precious bottle to my chest. No one had seen me. There was no shouts of mouse. All I could hear was the voices of the ancient witches burbling their silly sentences about how kind your grandness is, and all the rest of it. I went scampering down the corridor to the stairs and up one flight. I went to the 5th floor and then along the corridor again until I came to the door of my own bedroom. Thank goodness there was no one in sight. Using the bottom of the little bottle, I began tapping on the door. Will my grandmother hear me? I thought that she must. The bottle made a kind of light tap each time it struck. Tap, 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 tap. just so long as nobody came along the corridor. But the door didn't open. I decided to give it a risk. "Grandmama!" I shouted as loudly as I possibly could. "Grandmama, it's me, let me in!" I heard her feet coming across the carpet and the door opened. I went in like an arrow. "I've done it!" I cried, jumping up and down. "I've got it, Grandmama! Look, here it is! I got a whole bottle of it!" She closed the door. She bent down and picked me up and hugged me. "Oh, my darling!" she cried. "Thank heavens you're safe!" She sucked a little bottle from me and read the label aloud. "Formula 86 Delayed Action Mouse Maker," she read. "This bottle contains 500 doses. You're brilliant, darling boy. You're a wonder. You're a marvel. How on earth did you get out of her room?" "I nip out when the action witches are coming in," I told her. "It was a bit hairy, Grandmama. I wouldn't want to do it again." "I saw her too," my grandmama said. "I know you did, my grandmama. I heard her talking to each other. Didn't you? She was absolutely full. She's a muddler," my grandmother said. "She's the most evil woman in the entire world." "This is your mask?" I asked. "That's amazing," my grandmother said. "It looks just like a real face." Even though I knew it was a mask, I still couldn't tell. "Oh, my darling," she cried, giving me a hug. "I thought I'd never see you again. I'm so happy you got away." Mr. and Mrs. Jenkins meet Bruno. My grandmother carried me back into her own bedroom and put me on the table. She set the precious bottle down beside me. "What time are those witches having supper in the dining room?" she asked. 8 o'clock, I said. She looked at her watch. "It's now 6:10, she said. We got until 8 o'clock to work on our next move. Suddenly, her eyes fell upon Bruno. He was still in the banana bowl on the table. He had eaten the 3 bananas and was now attacking the 4th. He became immensely fat. "That's quite enough," my grandmother said, lifting him out of the bowl and putting him on the tabletop. "I think it's time to return this little fellow to the bosom of his family. Don't you agree, Bruno?" Bruno scowled at her. I've never seen a mouse scowl before, but he managed it. "My parents will let me eat as much as I want," he said. "I'd rather be with them than with you." "Of course you would," my grandmother said. "Do you know where your parents might be at this moment?" "They were in the lodge not long ago," I said. "I saw them sitting there as we dashed through on our way up here." "Right," my grandmother said. "Let's go and see if they're still there. Do you want to come along?" she added, looking at me. "Yes, please," I said. "As I put your bone in my handbag," she said. "Keep quiet and stay out of sight. If you must peep out of and again, don't show more than your nose." Her handbag was a large burly black leather affair with a tortoiseshell clasp. She picked up Bruno and me and popped us into it. "I shall leave the clasp undone," she said, "but be sure to keep out of sight." I had no intention of keeping out of sight. I wanted it inside the bag, near the clasp, and from there I was able to poke my head out whenever I wanted to. "Hey," Bruno called out, "give me the rest of the banana I was eating." "Oh, all right," my grandmother said. "Anything to keep you quiet." She dropped the half-eaten banana into the bag, then slung the bag over her arm and marched out of the room and went dancing along the corridor with her walking stick. We went down to the lift to the ground floor and made our way through the reading room to the lawn. And there, sure enough, sat Mr. and Mrs. Jenkins and a couple of armchairs with a long round glass-covered table between them. There are several other groups in there as well, but the Jenkins were the only couple sitting alone. Mr. Jenkins was reading a newspaper. Mrs. Jenkins was knitting something large and mustard-colored. Only my nose and eyes were above the clasp on my grandmother's handbag, but I had a super view. I could see everything. My grandmother, dressed in black lace, went dumping across the floor of the lounge and huddled in front of the Jenkins table. "Are you Mr. and Mrs. Jenkins?" she asked. Mr. Jenkins looked at her over the top of his newspaper and frowned. Yes, he said. I'm Mr. Jenkins. What can I do for you, madam? I'm afraid I have some rather alarming news for you, she said. It's about your son, Bruno. What about Bruno? Jenkins said. Miss Jenkins looked up at the window lighting. What's the little blighter been up to now? Mr. Jenkins asked. Waiting in the kitchen, I suppose. It's a bit worse than that, my grandmother said. Do you think we might go somewhere more private while I tell you about it? Private? Mr. Jenkins said. Why do we have to private? This is not an easy thing for me to explain, my grandmother said. I'd much rather we all went up to your room and sat down before I tell you any more. Mr. Jenkins lowered his paper. Miss Jenkins stopped knitting. I don't want to go up to my room, madam, Mr. Jenkins said. I'm quite comfortable here, thank you very much. He's a large coarse man, and he wasn't used to being pushing around it by anybody. Kindly state your business, and then leave us alone, he added. He spoke, and so he was addressing someone who was trying to sell him a vacuum cleaner at the back door. My grandmother, who had been doing her best to be kind to them as possible, now began to bristle to bit herself. We really can't talk in here, she said. There are too many people, and it's a rather delicate and personal matter. I talked with her. I dashed on to madam, Mr. Jenkins said. Come on now, out with it. If Rina has broken a window or smashed your spectacles, then I'll pay for the damage. But I'm not budging out of his seat. One or two other groups in the room were beginning to stare at us now. Where's Bruno anyway? Mr. Jenkins said. Tell him to come here and see me. He's here already, my grandmother said. He's in my handbag. She patted the big fluffy leather bag with her walking stick. What the heck do you mean he's in your handbag? Mr. Jenkins shouted. Are you trying to be funny? Miss Jenkins said. Very prim. There's nothing funny about this, my grandmother said. Your son has suffered a rather uncomfortable mischief. He suffers from overeating, and then he suffers from wind. You should hear him and after supper. He sounds like a brass band, but a good dose of castor oil would put him right again. Where's the little beggar? I've already told you, my grandmother said. He's in my handbag, but I do think it might be better if you went somewhere private before you meet him in his privacy. This woman's mad, Miss Jenkins said. Tell her to go away. The plain fact is, the grandmother said, that your son Bruno has been rather drastically altered. Altered? Shouted Mr. Jenkins. What the devil did he mean altered? Go away, Miss Jenkins said. You're only a woman. I'm trying to tell you, as gently as I possibly can, that Bruno really is in my handbag, my grandmother said. My own grandson actually saw them doing it to him. So who doing what to him, for heaven's sake? Shouted Mr. Jenkins. He had a black mustache which jumped up and down when he shouted. Saw the witches turning him into the mouse, my grandmother said. Call the manager, dear, Miss Jenkins said to her husband. Had this mad woman drawn out of the hotel? At this point, my grandmother's patience came to the end. She fished around in her handbag and found Bruno. She lit him out and dumped into the glass-top table. Miss Jenkins took one look at a fat brown mouse who was still chewing a bit of banana. She let out a shriek that rattled the crystals out of the chandelier. She sprang out of her chair, yelling, It's a mouse! Take it away! I can't stand the things! It's Bruno, my grandmother said. You nasty, cheeky old woman, shouted Mr. Jenkins. He started flapping his newspaper at Bruno, trying to sweep him off the table. My grandmother rushed forward and managed to grab hold of him before he was swept away. Miss Jenkins was still screaming her hand off, and Mr. Jenkins was towering over us and shouting, Get out of here! How dare you frighten my wife like that? Take your filthy mouse away this instant! Help! Screamed Miss Jenkins. Her face had gone the color of the underside of a fish. Well, I did my best, my grandmother said. And with that, she turned and sailed out of the room, carrying Bruno with her. That plan. When he got back to the bedroom, my grandmother took both me and Bruno out of her handbag and put us on the table. Why on earth didn't you speak up and tell your father who you are? She said to Bruno. Because I am a mouthful, Bruno said. He jumped straight back into the bowl of bananas and went on with his eating. What a very disagreeable little boy you are, my grandmother said to him. Not boy, I said. Mouse. Quite right, my darling, but I don't have time to worry about him at this moment. We have plans to make. In about an hour and a half time, all the witches will be going down to supper in the dining room, right? Right, I said. And every one of them has got to be given a dozen of my acre, she said. How on earth are you going to do that? Grandmama, I said. I think you're forgetting that a mouse can go places where humans being can't. That's quite right, she said. But even a mouse can't go creeping around the tabletop carrying a bottle and sprinkling mouse maker all over the witch's roast beef without being spotted. I wasn't thinking of doing it in the dining room, I said. Then where? She asked. In the kitchen, I said, while the food is being all ready. My grandmother stared at me. My darling child, she said slowly, I do believe that turning into a mouse has doubled your brain power. My little mouse, I said, Tingle's going around the kitchen among the pots and pans, and if he's very careful, no one will ever see him. Brilliant, my grandmother cried out. By golly, I think you've got it. But the only thing is, I said, how will I know which pan it will be disastrous if I turn all the other gas into mice by mistake, and especially you, Grandmama? Then you'll just have to creep into the kitchen and find a good hiding place and wait and listen. Just lie there and start creeping and listening to what the cooks are saying, and then, with a bit of luck, somebody was going to give you a clue. Whenever they have a big party to cook for, the food is always prepared separately. Right, I said. That's what I will have to do. I shall wait there and shall listen and shall hope for a bit of luck. It's going to be very dangerous, my grandmother said. Nobody welcomes the mouse in the kitchen. If they see you, they'll squash you to death. I won't let them see me, I said. Don't forget you'll be carrying the bottle, she said. So you won't be near me so quick and nippy. I can run quite fast standing up with the bottle in my arms, I said. I did it just now, don't you remember? I came all the way from the Grand High Witch's room carrying it. What of unscrewing top? She said. That might be difficult to you. Let me try, I said. I took hold of the little bottle and, using both of my front paws, I found that I was able to unscrew the cap quite easily. That's great, my grandmother said. You really are a clever mouse. She glanced at her watch. At 7:30, she said, as you go down to the dining room for supper with you in my handbag, I shall then release you under the table together with the precious bottle, and from then on you'll be on your own. You will have to work your way unseen across the dining room to the door that leads into the kitchen. There will be waiters going in and out at the door at the time. We'll have to choose the right moment and nip behind one of them. But for heaven's sake, be sure that you don't have trodden on or squeezed in the door. I'll try not to, I said. Whatever happens, you mustn't let them catch you. Don't go on about it, Grandma. You're making me nervous. You're a brave little fellow, she said. I do love you. What shall we do with Bruno? I asked her. Bruno looked up. I'm coming with you, he said, speaking his mouthful of banana. I'm not going to miss my supper. My grandmama considered this for a moment. I'll take you along, she said, if you promise to stay in my bag and keep absolutely silent. Will you pass food down to me from the table? Rina asked. Yes, she said. If you promise me to behave yourself. Would you like something to eat, my darling? She said to me. No, thank you, I said. I'm too excited to eat, and I got to fit and frisky for the big job ahead. It's a big job, all right, my grandmother said. You'll never do a bigger one. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe me and have a great day. Bye-bye.